What is going on, guys? Thank you for joining us. We are back for the weekly FM show, and this week it is a special week because we have a new co-presenter on the show from this week. We have Chris, the author of Johnny Cook Championship Manager and the man behind the Higher Tempo Press. Thank you for joining us, Chris.
Hello, guys. How you doing?
We are fantastic. Delighted to have you on. People might notice that Ryan is not here. He's sunning it up in Belgium. It's
In
okay.
Belgium.
Yeah, it looks
Done.
sunny.
Done.
It did look sunny, so we'll let him off.
Okay.
Now, we were due to have a guest on tonight, but unfortunately, he didn't get back to me in time when I had to go off the internet to get this show ready. So we're going to have to rearrange some topics, but we're going to get started, Chris, by talking about sorting out scouting out. Just discussing how do we go about scouting players? Do we have any methods when we start the game? Because you're like me, you have the attribute masking on.
Yeah.
So obviously your scouts are vital because without your scouts, without watching the people, you have no idea what stats them people have.
Yeah, definitely. Like scouting for me is absolutely massive because I think, just a bit like you, I like to build a club up from sort of scratch. Most of the saves I start are from a club that needs a bit of work. I never go in at the sort of like at a high level. In fact, the save that I'm doing with Wolves is the highest sort of level that I've started at in Football Manager, and even that was a bit weird going in sort of a championship level. But I'm always looking for players, ideally for no money, but if not no money, as little money as possible. So it's vital to have the right scouting setup around it. I've got quite a sort of unique method of doing the whole recruitment process. Anyway,
I was going to say you have your how you judge a player. You don't obviously go by the stats. You like to go obviously solely on performance.
yeah,
And I suppose the question I would love to ask on that is, my scout method is I have a scout which obviously does first team and a scout that does prospects. And
right.
they are constantly, when they come back with the person who has the potential, then I will scout that specific individual. Now, do you go to the league structure and find players who perform well the division below? Then do you scout them for their attributes, or do you then scout them just to find out the pros and cons to go along with the stats you're looking at in terms of goals scored in the previous season?
Yeah, I kind of approach it in sort of several different ways. My first angle is looking at the performance stats of the players. So I will open up the player search and I will sort of go through all the players in a filter order depending on the particular performance sort of statistics that I'm looking at. So let's take passes completed per 90 minutes as an example. So I'll go through all the players there. I'll spend a lot of time doing this, and I'll find players that are then in and around the sort of equivalent sort of league structure that I'm looking at.
Okay.
And then once I found something that feels like it's a good fit, then I'll start scouting them. So I'll do it that way initially. And then once I've done that, now that doesn't always guarantee that I'm going to find players. Once I've done that and I found players that sort of fit my KPI sort of standards that I'm looking at in various positions, then I send the scouts out to look at that. And it's only if the scouts then also agree that they're a good player will I bring them in. Especially since I've been working at the level with Wolves and we're now sort of very well established in the Premier League. I can't just purely rely on the fact that that guy passes the ball 57 times a game and completes 89% of his passes. I do need to know whether the scouts feel and the director of football feels that he's going to sort of cut it in the Premier League as well. So if I've got those two things going on, I know I'm onto a winner with the player.
So the main use of a scout for yourself is you will look, obviously. Now you do something which I have never ever done, which is go onto the player search and actually search by pass percentage. And for example, I'm not going to lie, I've never even looked to see if that was possible. I do go through players and I will find, okay, so my scout recommends this person, potentially 4-star. I will then click on him and see how he's performed. But I would never go onto my scouted list and then filter by passing percentage and stuff. But that is actually something which I'm going to do. So,
well, I find the stuff at the bottom of the player profile screen isn't enough for me. Just telling me how many goals, how many assists. I think there's also shots on target and pass completion. That's good, but there's so much more to it than that as well. So
Indeed.
I've set up a filter which tells me all the key performance areas that I'm interested in. And then I start to sift through that. So I won't just literally go passes complete. I'll then look at the amount of passes. I look at the amount of key passes, and I keep sort of churning it until I find players that pop up often enough for me to go, okay, there's obviously something good happening here. Now I'm going to scout him.
Yeah.
What I then also do, especially since I've gone into the Premier League on my scouting, is that because I'm always going to be although we've done well, we've even won the Premier League in my time at Wolves. We're always going to be a smaller club than the likes of United and City and Liverpool and so on and so forth. So I then look to find out what players these clubs have been hoarding. So I'm always on the transfer list as well, because every so often you're going to pick up a player that's a very, very good player, but just can't get a game. So he's available at an absolute knockdown price. So again, we've done a lot of that in our sort of recruitment at Wolves as well. And I picked up I picked up Luka Jovic originally through my scouting network. I knew that he was one of the names of players that you should be buying, but I hate, like you were saying earlier, I hate doing that with people's recommendations. It's got to come through the scouting.
Yeah.
But he came up through my scout, so that made it acceptable to me to buy him, and he hit all my KPIs in the scouting, so he was good. I took him and he got something like 48 goals for me in a very, very long season. And City came in and bought him for 52 million. So that's great. We bought him for 5, sold him for 52. That's a massive tick in my sort of money ball box.
Mike Ashley, I love you.
Well, exactly. But then I replaced him with Luciano Vietto, who was at Chelsea at the time, and they were selling him for 5 million. So I bought him. He came in, did exactly what Jovic did, and got, I think, something like 42 goals. And I sold him to City again for £63 million. But in that time, Jovic had been at City, been on the bench and done absolutely nothing. And he was then available for 15 million quid. So I went back and bought him again for 15 million quid. So there's different ways that I'm sort of working out how I find value in the market. That's probably the key thing with my scouting. It's all about value in the market. The great thing about the KPI searches that I do is that if you've got a striker that's got 20 for his head, 20 for his finishing, 20 pace and 20 strength, well, the chances are that he's going to be worth more money than Wolves really want to be paying for that player. But if you look around the KPIs and stuff, you might actually find somebody that who's only got 12 finishing, 12 composure and 6 for pace, but he's consistently got 67% of his shots on target over a 40-game season. He takes 3 shots per game, and he's actually got a pass completion rate of 92%. But because he hasn't got the attributes at a high level, he's not put into that bracket of superstar sort of in terms of wages that he wants and price the club's going to demand. So I then pick him up a damn sight cheaper, but he still does the job for me. And it works for me. Some people find it a little bit long-winded and a little bit complicated, but it's really worked for me. And this Wolves save's the first time I've ever spent money on players, so it's not going too badly.
Well, it's not bad if you're spending money and then you're selling for a lot more and then buying them back. Just quickly downside,
I've done
James.
that 3 times now.
It's perfect if that works.
Yeah.
Just say hello to James. Thanks for listening, pal. Appreciate it. Just for the listeners who listen back on YouTube as well, just want to say what KPI is.
It's a key performance indicator. So
there you
just
go, people.
Just the key stats.
But it's definitely worth doing, like Chris has said, and it's something I'm going to look into because I only sign players who my scouts recommend. And after the long-winded scouting of six months of scouting players I've just been doing, and people who have been checking out on Facebook, I've just posted my second season transfers with Wimbledon, for example. And I was really lucky that 90% of my signings were people who had actually started scouting in January. Yeah. And was watching, waiting for them, hoping the contracts ran down. There was 3 people from Scotland who unfortunately signed new deals in about March. After 3 months of scouting, they signed a new deal, and they would have been an absolute bargain steal. But it's fantastic. I absolutely love doing the with the masking on, and also just setting yourself the target of everybody has to be scouted, everybody has to be checked out thoroughly, and no player is bigger than the club, which people will have found out because I sold my top goal scorer from the first season as soon as he refused to sign a new contract. 1 year left. Goodbye.
No, exactly. I mean, I have similar rules sort of myself. In the fact that the minute a player says he wants to leave, well, I put him on the transfer list.
Yeah.
I'll still pick him if he needs if I need him to play, but he'll be on the transfer list until he decides he wants to stay again. I rarely get involved in a lot of player interaction now because I've been bitten by that so many times on Football Manager. And even down to team talks. The only time I really give a team talk is when I can tell the side to carry on where they left off, or I just give them an absolute kicking at half time. They're about the only two things that I do in a team talk sense now, and it's worked brilliantly in this Wolves save. A lot of people spend a lot of time thinking about what team talk to give and everything like that, but I tend not to now.
Well, that's quite strange because I absolutely focus on my team talks before, during, and after the games a lot more now, especially with the Wolves save. But what I find, I don't know if you found this, and if this is just paranoia, but what I find is if the opposition is attacking, if you make an in-game team talk, they will score.
Ha!
Whilst it's like waiting to take effect.
Right.
Same with like a substitution. I always find it if it's on a highlight where the opposition is attacking, you can guarantee that they will score. Um, but yeah, I always focus on I get the best person to take the original team talk, then I give personal individual team talks.
Okay.
Then I'll normally encourage after 30 minutes if we draw in, and tell them to concentrate after 30 minutes if we're winning. You know what I'm like. If I get one goal, it's like, get behind the ball.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it seems to work really well at the minute for me. Like I said, I had a successful first season. I didn't go up. I got beat in the playoffs, which was a bit depressing. Um, Second season, it's been a slow start, but I've totally rebuilt my defence. So they are starting to gel a bit better. So it's just a matter of seeing if we can put some results together now.
Yeah.
But first thing, we're going to look at it's kind of what we were talking about there. We moved into a little bit in the scouting, which is the player performance.
Yeah.
And mainly just looking at I've started a lot more looking at the under 21s and under 18 league tables and really judging my players' performance and not their stats. And there's a player who's come up in my first team, and he is shocking stats wise. But he topped the under 21s goals, assists, and average ratings in the first season.
Yeah.
I assume you focus a lot on that, and especially as you said, you like to pick up the people who are sitting rotting in the reserves for the bigger clubs. They will be appearing on the under 21s, obviously stats because they'll be playing in them games, so they'll be in the league structure. So
Yeah.
do you scout them leagues?
Oh, completely, completely. I think it's fair to say that PSG's reserve team is basically my youth academy at the moment. The amount of players I've picked up from them, either on a free because they've been released or for less than £1 million. I picked up a regen right back called Asomba, who came in. I picked him up for 750,000. For some reason, just with the tactic I'm playing, both my wing backs always end up with sort of like around 7.9, 8.0 average ratings for the season. Don't really know why. It just happens. So I'm literally just churning out international fullbacks left, right, and centre. So I picked this guy up for 750,000. A year later, and sold him on to, I think it was to Everton for 22 million. In the space of one year. Went back to PSG, picked up another one on a free. Another year later, he's off to Fulham, I think it was, for about 14 million. And then the next one I brought in is actually coming from Benfica, I think, on a free because he was released. And again, I've just turned down a 22 million pound bid for him. So it's yeah, definitely. I'm always looking at the reserve teams and the under 21 teams of bigger clubs than myself, whilst obviously keeping a very close eye on what's going on in my own youth academy.
I mean, you've got to be careful because there'll be a lot of people and a lot of players who were rotting in the reserves, and they might top a lot of the stats. For example, they might score a lot of goals and they might score a lot of assists. Now, I know you like to focus on that if the player's performing well. But you also, as you say, you will then speak to your scouts because he might have a con of not playing well in big games or not handling pressure well. So then when he comes up to the first team, he'll be a total flop. And it's obviously you need to make sure you assess all of that when you decide if you're going to move a player up or not.
Yes, I understand the theory behind it, but I have to say I don't get too hung up on it.
No?
If the reserve team or youth team centre midfielder is playing really well, and is hitting the performance stats that I'm looking at, so he's passing the ball as often as I want him to, he's winning the interceptions to the level that I expect of a player in that position, then I'm going to give him a go. And regardless, actually, at that point, what the coaches think of him as well, and I'll make my own mind up on him. If I look at the players that I'm buying in because there's a higher risk attached to that, because I don't want to waste money, then yeah, I am going to take into account what the scout report says. But normally, and this sounds really lazy actually, I only look at the stars that are allocated, and I take a punt on that. I actually rarely read the complete in-depth scout report. I judge it purely on their performance, whether I consider that value for money, and the final scout report in terms of stars allocated.
Oh, okay. So you see, I suppose I don't know if it's because you'll see that I did that 5-5 making a solid base. Now I said to myself, right, I need to pick a team for this. So I picked AFC Wimbledon. Now straight away my thought was, right, if this goes tits up, I can't do this post. So I had to sit down and I went through all of my players to start with, and I looked at the pros and cons. And some of the players were rated as better than others, but they didn't handle big pressure games. They were lazy, basically. So I never brought them in. And I mean, I got 28 clean sheets in all competitions throughout the season.
Right.
And it was all down to a couple of the better defenders didn't make it in the squad because of the cons.
Yeah. Okay.
And I genuinely, I know you hate my style of Football Manager.
Yeah.
Me and Chris people have had a lot of laughs about the fact he literally just abuses living daylights of how I play Football Manager, because I will get so excited about 28 clean sheets.
Yeah.
Which Chris will then ask how many goals I scored, and I scored 47 in 46 games, I think it was.
You're joking.
No, I think in all competitions, I think I had a 1.1 goals per game.
That's awful.
It was like a 0.4 goals conceded per game. So
Jesus Christ. Seriously, the amount of time and effort you and I put into playing Football Manager, I could not sit there for a week watching that quality of football. That's just
You should have I streamed last night. I streamed about 10 of the games in the first season.
Right.
And then we got about 5 clean sheets in a row. And I'm not joking you, I was bouncing up and down on my seat. The people watching the stream were thinking, what's he so happy about? He didn't score. And I'm going, yes, another clean sheet.
But I'm not for 1 minute trying to suggest that I'm better at you than you at this at all. So I don't think I am. But when I won the Premier League with Wolves last season, we had the best defensive record in the league and scored the most goals.
There you go, see? Success.
Yeah, but it was slightly more than a 1.1 goal average. I think we had about a 3.2 goal average a game or something.
See, what I would say on that is, obviously, if Wimbledon are the best team in the league, then I would assume and hope I could get it above 2.0. But when I was predicted to finish 16th, and the bookies were laughing at me, I kind of went in with the mindset of thinking, right, we need to not concede, then look for victories out of that. But the idea was not to kind of come in the bottom half, if that makes sense. When my team develops into the better team, I already know I've got the solid defensive base, so I can kind of adjust my tactic that little bit just to create more chances. But we do create a lot of chances, just my players seem to not understand where the goal is at points.
Yeah, okay. First season at Wolves, we were in the Championship. We were predicted to finish 19th. We won the league by about 14 points and scored more goals than had ever been scored in the Championship before. So
So
I take what you're saying, but I think and this is a genuine point with the match engine on Football Manager. And I was talking to one of the guys in the group about it earlier today. The match engine does seem to be set up to reward attacking football more than defensive football. I think what you've achieved there to get that many clean sheets over the course of the season is actually incredible, because it's really, really difficult to achieve. It's much easier to go out and set up a team to attack on Football Manager and win 3-2 every week than it is to go out and win 1-0 every week.
Do you know, I am absolutely delighted you just said that, because if somebody reads the post, in the first couple of paragraphs, and I think maybe in the first paragraph, I actually mentioned how so many times it is portrayed that it is impossible to keep clean sheets in Football Manager. And that was another reason, believe it or not, Chris, I used to be so gung-ho at Football Manager. But everybody for years has told me how hard it is to keep clean sheets. And I almost kind of went, you know what, I'm going to prove that you can do it. And I'm going to prove that you can sit back and kind of counter. And it does work. I mean, this season, second season, it's, as I said, it started a bit more of a struggle. I think I've played 5 games and only got 2 clean sheets. I've scored a lot of goals. You'll actually be proud of me there. But my team is starting to settle down. I had to make a lot of signings over the summer, which you do in low leagues. But we're actually going to move on. Just quickly, True Blue, I assume it is James. Yeah, James, I contacted you, but because I got no reply when we had to come on and start preparing for the show, I had to obviously sort something out. So I do apologise, but obviously I informed you in an email what time I would be contacting you. But yeah, Chris, we're going to move on to your little pride and joy, your most recent topic. Not topic, project. Just explain to me what the HigherTempo press is.
So the HigherTempo press is something I set up off the back of the Johnny Cooper books. It's actually meant to be a sort of a self-publishing company for people. So if you're a budding sort of sports author and you think you've got a book inside you that you sort of want to get out onto the shelves, then send it to us at the HigherTempo press, and we'll read it for you. What sort of give you some advice on whether we think it is actually worth sort of getting out into the public eye, help you edit it, help you put it together basically, and then walk you through the sort of the self-publishing process. It's one thing I've definitely done in the last year is made a lot of mistakes in how you launch a book into the public eye for the very first time. So sort of using that sort of experience that I've picked up is really then just to help people that might be thinking, oh, I really want to do it, but I just wouldn't know where to start. It's actually a really good opportunity for them just to literally send over their manuscript, and we'll sort of work on it together and then see if it's actually worth getting out in front of people. So that's the concept. It's sort of a self-publishing support company, but then with sort of all the writing that we've done, and the guys that I know that love writing, we've then got a website going which is basically based around a bit of Football Manager writing, a couple of really good classic Championship Manager pieces as well by 2 brilliant Championship Manager writers. We've got an actual head coach of a team in the United States, a guy called Ali Bain. He's doing a coaching corner for us where he gives a real life sort of thought process on what's actually going on the training field. And we've got a Sunday League guy, Callum Stewart, as well. He's writing a little bit of stuff for us on what it's like in grassroots football. So there's a few sort of different things going through on the writing thing. But the key point is that if there's anybody out there that's got a book that they would like to actually publish, send it to us, and we'll have a look at it and could quite possibly publish it through the HigherTempo press, a bit like the betting book that's on the side there.
I'm not sure. Earlier on, obviously I came onto the website, and I can guarantee somebody who watches this will think the same. The first thing I thought was, why they got the guy at Sky Sports News to do a betting book?
Yeah.
That was literally first thing that came to my head was, is that the man from Sky Sports News?
Yeah.
But yeah, you know, I love a good football bet, so it's definitely worth checking out. But do you know what? I have to read this first. This line: will they one day argue who was better, Clough or Darwin?
Well, I thought it would be controversial enough to get people to read the project.
Well, he should be mentioned in the same breath as Brian Clough.
Well, exactly. The whole point of this the Football Manager sort of story that I'm writing for the website is taking Brian Clough and looking what he achieved as a manager between 1971 and 1981, because that was the back end of his Derby career, and then moving into the sort of the early bit of Nottingham Forest, and it's absolutely phenomenal the amount of trophies that he won. So I wanted to take a sort of a regional size club like Forest, like Derby, and actually see how far I could take them over the course of a decade, and see if I could actually match his trophy haul in the course of that. And
Okay.
I think off the top of my head, Clough won 2 First Division, so 2 Premier Leagues, a couple of League Cups, and 2 European Cups, so the Champions League over the course of that time. So that's kind of what I've set myself out to try and emulate in the decade at Wolves. He also got Nottingham Forest promoted in his first season, and Derby promoted in his first season. So he started off at both of those clubs in the second tier. So that was my first challenge. So I took Wolves because I think similar size club, similar sort of project, and took him up. There we go. That's what he won in his time. Yeah. So I'm sort of trying now to knock off the titles that he's won so far. I'm in terms of where I'm at in the game. I'm up to season 6, but I think it's about season 3 or 4 that's been written up on the website.
Don't give any away past that, even though you kind
No.
of did earlier.
Yeah.
But there you've got the 2 First Divisions, 2 League Cups, 2 European Cups. That's going to be the tough one. And a
Yeah.
manager of the year, which hopefully you've already got.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, I will give a little bit away because it might. I mean, even though you know the results, it's still interesting to read how I've gone about getting to the results. We won the championship easily in the first season. Came up with a formation that I was really pleased with, and we basically hammered the championship. Got promoted up to the Premier League and finished 5th in our first season, which was incredible. I really wasn't expecting that, and that meant we qualified for the Europa League. The next season, I think that was the season where we lost in the Europa League final. Ended up finishing 9th because the season we ran out of steam. Lost in the League Cup final as well. I thought, well, that's it. We've not qualified for Europe again, so this is going to make it really, really difficult. Somehow, I've got no idea how it gets worked out. Even in the real world, I don't know how they work it out. But we ended up qualifying for the Europa League through the Fair Play Award. So I thought, oh, brilliant. And we went on to win the Europa League the next season, which qualified us for the Champions League. And then in the last season, the season before the one I'm playing at the minute, and I don't think this one is up on the website yet, but we finally won the Premier League, and then lost in injury time to Bayern Munich in the Champions League final, which was absolutely heartbreaking. And I'd never won the Premier League on Football Manager. And I certainly hadn't won the Champions League on Football Manager. In fact, this is the first time I've managed in the Premier League in Football Manager. So to lose in the final, having thought I was going to sort of knock another one off the Brian Clough list, was heartbreaking. But yeah, but it's been.
Sorry, go on.
It's been the toughest sort of managerial gig of my life because I've changed the tactic each season as well.
Okay.
To try and keep it fresh and try and keep sort of evolving the way that we're playing. It's the longest in terms of time taken over a season because of the amount of scouting I'm doing, because of the amount of sort of behind the scenes work that we're doing as well. So yeah, it's been really good fun, but very hard work.
It's I mean, I can feel the pain of the loss in the Champions League final because obviously we both like to play the lower leagues, and people have seen on the website a few months ago I did a road to success where I started with Milton Keynes just for a random save, ended up turning into a small journeyman save, and then for the first time in a long time I was in charge of a big club. I was in charge of Liverpool.
Yeah.
And in my first season, I came runners up in the Premier League, but I got to the Champions League final, and I lost it on penalties. And it was going to be the first time in, I don't know, it must be close to since Championship Manager, before since I won the Champions League. And to lose it on penalties was just soul destroying.
Yeah.
And then to make it even worse, the following season, I think I was so close to winning the Premier League, and I think I lost it on like one defeat or something.
Oh, geez.
I'm just going through your post just to give a quick mention of some people who've obviously inspired parts of it. You've got your friend Alex Stewart who did the Moneyball post.
Yeah.
Sorry, I've seen that on what website is that on?
That was on Ian McIntosh's The Set Pieces.
That's it. I've seen it. I'd seen and been in and read it a couple times, but I always just followed a link on Twitter.
Yeah.
But definitely worth following him on Twitter. And I saw a couple of the people. You gave Lines and Diamonds, which is on C Sports Centre by Cleon.
Yeah.
One of the legends of Football Manager, in my opinion. Fantastic. Guy hosts a lot of stuff on his website, which isn't by himself, as well as a lot that's done by himself. A really knowledgeable Football Manager player.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if anyone's not read that Lines and Diamonds and they think that building a tactic is quite difficult, I know you've written some good stuff about tactical sort of building as well, Paul. But that Lines and Diamonds is an absolute brilliant handbook. Helped me massively.
I'm loading it up. We'll check it out in a second. Give it a little bit of a look for the viewers so they know what to check out. You've also gave FM Analysis a shout out.
Yeah, I was sort of reading the stuff that he was doing at some team in Holland. I can't remember who it was. Is it written down there? No, it's not. But yeah, he was doing some great stuff in Holland, and he had a really nice tactic and a nice tactical approach in terms of staggering his 3 forward players, which I really like. I've completely now changed that in this season. I play with 3 false nines, but yeah, I mean that was some good stuff. And I think actually I go on to also sort of talk about some of the stuff that Addicted to FM Rashidi's doing. His breaking down of a game, his analysis of a game, his tactical sort of work on it, absolutely brilliant sort of reading, and just shows what a variety of quality there is out there in the FM community, really, in terms of helping other people learn and develop.
There's some fantastic stuff out there, and there's some really small guys. If people drop us a message on Twitter, for example, we can link you to some awesome blogs by some really small writers who they only have a couple of followers, for example, on Twitter.
Yeah.
And they are literally so unknown, it's scary because some of them are awesome. A shout out to our good friend James and the FM WizKids. Doing the fantastic database as always.
Yeah.
Anyone else? No, I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll pop over to the Lines and Diamonds by Cleon. John, just explain what this is, because I can quite happily admit now I've not seen this.
It's a little while ago since I read it, but basically there was 10 parts to it, and the Hand of God, who I have no idea who it is, but the Hand of God basically put together this managerial guide and breaking down pretty much every single step through sort of tactics, through training, through personalities, through the different roles that are available to you on Football Manager, how you then create partnerships, how you then sort of look at analysing the sort of the heat maps, and basically, and not so much an idiot's guide, because some of it is quite technical, but a bit of an idiot's guide on how to start from scratch on managing a side tactically on Football Manager. And it was absolutely brilliant. I mean, when you read it, you realise that so many of the team instructions completely contradict each other. Yet so often you see the tactics that you build, you fill up quite a few of the team instructions, and they really do actually work against each other. So the first tactic that I built in the wall save was absolutely minimal team instructions, and it proved to be one of the most successful sort of tactics that I'd created. So, and that was based off the stuff that I learned from that guide.
There's a lot of team instructions actually. There's a lot of people when they post on the group, and for example, I ask for ideas and stuff, and the one that really bugs me is the play narrow and exploit the flanks.
Yeah.
I've seen people use that, and then they've come to me with issues of asking why they're losing. I asked for the heat map, just have a look, see exactly what's happening, and it just looks so messed up. And you find that the passing percentage of your central midfielders is dead because they keep trying to spread it wide and there's nobody there because the wingers are playing narrow. There's a lot that can contradict. It's definitely a whole show's worth to talk about. I just want to, before we go back onto the high tempo, I just want to quickly give a shout out to the Santos Experience FM16 by Cleon.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to that.
I am so looking forward to this.
Yeah.
Every post is brought out. I've been reading on my way to work and when I'm at home, and I'm really looking forward to it.
Yeah, I've been a massive Brazilian football fan for years and years and years, and even ran my own Brazilian soccer schools back in the UK for a while. And to sort of speak to Cleon about this stuff, it's like talking to a kindred spirit, really, because he has the ability to really manage and develop a youth sort of culture within a football team on Football Manager in the way actually it would happen in real life. And it's absolutely brilliant to read about. Yeah,
it's going to be something to look forward to. It's almost like you end up, when you get into the FM community, which a lot of people are, but some people listen might have just stumbled across the FM community. There's so much which can actually keep you busy for hours just reading other people's work.
Yeah.
We've been really lucky. A good friend of ours, FM Yank, is bringing a lot of he's decided to do a lot of writing now. And he's released a review of the CONCACAF Gold Cup and the World Cup qualification. He's doing some FM posts at the minute, and they are definitely worth checking out. He's one of the most talented writers I've come across, and I'm delighted that he's actually put stuff on our website.
Yeah, so I've read both those posts, and yeah, Colin's done an absolutely brilliant job there.
Another thing to point out is Ryan's journey to Man United. He's obviously at Man United now. He is now developing the class of 2035. It's going well. He's got some fantastic players in there. I just want to quickly shout out to DF Facebacks. There's been a new release out this week. Definitely worth downloading. Chris, there's been an FM 2016 feature announced. They announced that rival clubs can alter and change as the seasons go on.
Yeah.
Fantastic feature, in my opinion.
Yes. It's it wouldn't have been top of my priority list for new features for the FM16, but I do like the concept.
Definitely a great feature, and it is one I am actually really happy with, because you think, how often do you get promoted? Other clubs get relegated, and you end up kind of thinking, well, hang on, that town is right next to that town. They should now be rivals. And it's frustrating when they're not. So it is something quite good. But as you said, there is a lot of features they do need to sort out and work on. The managerial stats is definitely one of them. There are stats which never improve, which is really frustrating. And there's a prime example of my Zero to Hero, which, by the way, Chris, is back. There's a new episode out tomorrow. I've recorded 3 episodes today. So after a couple of weeks break off it, episode 58 is due out tomorrow night. And I can tell you there is major changes ahead again. And it was by choice this time, before someone says I got sacked again on it. But I want to end tonight's show talking about Torrevieja. This is a club that Chris is in love with, a club that many people are getting to know a lot better. And something exciting I want to plan before FM16 comes out. Now, I've had a thought the best way to do this, because Torrevieja nights are going to come back on a Friday night every week on Twitch. Now, we are too close to FM16 to start in the 4th tier of Spanish football, Chris.
Yeah.
There's no way we're going to get up there and actually do anything in that time. So what I'm thinking is the idea of putting them in the 2nd tier of Spanish football, with an updated squad to the best of our abilities. And then given the FM Central members 10 Spanish players who have not been capped by Spain to join the club. Okay. And then we see what we can do from the 2nd tier of Spanish football and see where we can go. So 10 Spanish players, but they can't have been capped by Spain. So we can't throw the likes of, I don't know, like you can't throw bring Raul back to play in Spain, for example.
Yeah.
Okay. It's going to be interesting, and it's going to be a poll on the Facebook group, which will get a lot of people involved, a lot of people talking about Torrevieja, and a lot of people excited about coming to watch Torrevieja night and see exactly what's going to be happening. And we do have some more news coming very shortly, involving myself and Chris. But that will all be announced next week, so it's definitely worth hanging around and finding out what Torrevieja has in store for everybody. because it's some exciting times. And Chris, you were actually famous and promoted by Football Manager themselves recently.
Yeah, through the We Are the Managers campaign.
Which I should actually get down here so people can watch it. I'll get that sorted. Do you want to just explain what it was?
Well, yeah, Football Manager sort of heard about what I was doing at Torrevieja through just some contacts I have within SI through writing the books and stuff. And they thought it'd be a particularly good story to come out and film. I'm pretty sure that a lot of them just wanted to come out and film it because they were guaranteed some sunshine for a couple of days. But either way, they came out and they wanted to film the Torrevieja story, especially with everything that we're doing in terms of Torrevieja becoming more and more of an FM sort of fan favorite club through Football Manager Central. It just made it sure it was a really good sort of link. And yeah, they came out. They filmed us at the stadium. They filmed my dog. It was really good fun to do.
Sit down.
Yeah. And personally, to then sort of have a video that I've been involved in up alongside the likes of Carlo Cudicini, who is an absolute football legend in my eyes, it's quite a proud moment. But the most important thing is that it has increased the exposure of Torrevieja to a much wider network now. I've had loads of people contacting me at the club as a result of that, and it's brilliant for Torrevieja, and hopefully we're going to do some kind of follow-up stuff through Sports Interactive as a result of the popularity of it.
Yeah, I think it's going to be fantastic. Now, definitely when Football Manager 2016 comes out, and even before that, the FM Central community, you are going to have Torrevieja thrown in your face. So
yeah,
everywhere you look, you will see Torrevieja. And when FM 16 comes out, Sports Interactive, beware, I'll be thrown in your faces as well.
Yeah.
But like I say, it's not like we're throwing something bad at people and saying, check this out, it's rubbish. We're throwing something good for people to check out. And it's something, how many people who sit and listen to this show back will say, do you know what? Whenever I play Football Manager, I want to get involved with a club. Well, here's your chance.
Yeah.
With the FM community as well, which makes it even better. You're not doing it alone. You're not doing it in your bedroom, just emailing a random club. You're doing it with an FM community. And James is actually just coming in the side saying somebody just ordered the Torrevieja away shirt last night.
Yes, indeed. And somebody posted them out to him today.
There you go, James. Congratulations, pal. Good work. But that's tonight's show. It went quite well, Chris. First show for yourself?
Yeah, not a bad sort of starting effort. Once I get match fit, I'm sure it'll go even better.
Well, that's it. As long as you don't go for an early wicket. There's a cricket reference.
Are we mixing cricket and football now, Paul?
I've watched it all day.
Have you?
We've got to throw it in there. But yeah, it's been good. Ryan will be back next week, so it'll be the three amigos.
Brilliant.
That's for you and your Spanish.
That's a Spanish one as well. So we've got cricket.
Throwing it all there.
Brilliant. And anything else before we go?
Ciao. Throw some of that in. Hada. That's me for languages. We're done.
Good. Lovely.
Anything to say, or are we just going?
No, let's leave it at that.
Fantastic. Thanks for listening, people, and we will see you next week.